numerous videos I have made on the unusual behaviors of online pseudoskeptics, exploring, mapping, describing, naming attributes, asking for feedback, advising skeptics. Here, one skeptic responds, initially to the video question put, why don't skeptics upload companion animal videos, like mainstream people? And then goes on to explain a whole lot about the skeptic experience. That fills in the puzzle dramatically, raising the question, dear skeptics, could this be you? From Emilio, Skeptics and Pets, greetings, I enjoyed your videos, they are really informative and helpful. I acquired the term, pseudoskeptic, from watching your stuff. I knew that I was a skeptic, and that there was a difference between what I did and what other skeptics did that was very different, but you helped me with my terminology. Now I call them pseudoskeptics, because that is what they are. They don't believe anything, unless it comes on television first. I find that amusing. It has to be spoken on television, from the lips of one of their prophets. I can imagine Randy coming down from the mountain with a stone tablet on which is written a bunch of thou shalt nots concerning everything from Ouija boards to chiropractors. I am a recovering, skeptical, atheist. As such, I have a friend who is still among the skeptical atheists, and he has never been long without at least one pet. He is a dog man and is very good with them. He is one of these people that has dogs as substitute children, or at least that's the way I see it. His wife is incapable of bearing children. You would never know from his internet presence that he is a dog person, unless you meet him in person, or know him well enough to have access to his online photos. I think that many of these pseudo-skeptics are fine people, and make great friends, and I am lucky to know him. However, their worldview is skewed, and they take their religion and television way too seriously. They are also horrible PR men for science, because they are always harping about science this, and science that. Real science and real skepticism rarely emerge in these conversations. This friend is not really a James Randi fan, or at least he has never mentioned him to me. He is a Penn and Teller type of skeptic. I personally find Penn even more obnoxious than Randi. He is every bit as horrid, but louder and more vulgar. He is big and intimidating, not a cute little garden gnome, like Randi. It's not that he insults people and their ideas that bothers me so much as the way he does it from the safety of a studio. You never see him call someone a derogatory name in person. I bet all that hot air and bluffing would disappear if another big man stepped up to him face to face. You also never see Penn debate an idea. It is always personal attacks, without allowing his opponents an opportunity to respond or even informing them that they are being debated. Debated meaning insulted, French to batter. It is cowardice, and I shouldn't let it upset me, but it does. I think Penn and Teller are homosexuals just like Randi. I don't personally care, but homosexual magicians seem to have something wrong with them that makes them a pain in the ass, so to speak, to everyone they meet. Nobody else cares if they are homosexual. Why don't they just get over it? There is something deeper in this. I was once one of these atheists. I also had a problem with Santa Claus, I have to admit. I was fortunate enough to be able to recover and become a real skeptic in my mid-20s. It was a necessary phase for me, because I had a lot of psychological damage from my time spent in Christian school. It may sound like a walk in the park, but people don't realize how traumatic it is to believe that God is angry with you and wants you to suffer for eternity. These pseudo-Christians think that God created a bottomless pit full of fire, darkness, wailing, loneliness, demons, and immortal maggots just to throw his children into. He really went all out on creating this torture hole. He just blows on a lump of mud to make man, which seems heretical seeing as how man is made in God's image, according to the same Bible. To tell children this is insane, and it has been my long-held theory that if this practice were to stop, atheism and pseudo-skepticism would deflate like a popped balloon. These things are, for the most part, a rebellion against childhood traumas. Atheism helped me in life by providing a decompression from the insane angry God belief that ruined much of my childhood. I was able to take a breath and think things over and decide what was real and what was not, without the pressures of guilt and fear influencing my thinking. These pseudo-skeptics were taken in by something, and they felt like fools. That is why they are hung up about Santa Claus. They felt like idiots for believing they haven't reached the point where they can be wrong and just let it go. No, it is personal. I am sure you have been wrong about something and just let it go. It just rolled off like water off a duck's back, right? These people don't have that luxury. They haven't got that neck. I know how that feels. It takes a lot of life experience for some people to get over themselves and enjoy life. It also takes some maturity to be confronted with an idea and not feel like you have to have an opinion about it. That is a dangerous combination, to be compelled to form an opinion and also have to be correct in that opinion, or else, grave fear. It is a huge weight that no one has to bear. That is the ironic part, that this maddening burden is purely optional. You can just skip away without forming any opinion at all. You can think about it later. It takes some maturity to see it in this context. This too hard basket can be as big as you want. These people think that to have the correct opinion about everything makes them intelligent. Everything else is willful ignorance, and that is what is wrong with the world. These people are going to fix the world by focusing the left hemisphere of their brains on only correct opinions because they are that important. They are magicians. They are sorcerers. All the best, Emilio, Senta, Kimbo 99. This is very welcome feedback, and makes my hundreds of skeptic videos also worthwhile. It means hopefully many skeptics are on the road to recovery. For those mystified by the phrase too hard basket, there are adjacent videos pointing out online skeptics deny its very existence, doing themselves a grave disservice. Emilio is suggesting that intellectually it doesn't occur in the development of some young people till much later, causing them a lot of grief. But it's not their fault. I must say, never being religious myself, and coming from Australia, which is secular like Sweden and Denmark, totally devoid of religious fundamentalism, I was greatly taken aback by the legions of pseudoskeptics, exclusively from America, parroting evolution slogans with religious fervor, and raging online, and blatantly lying repeatedly, for apparently no good reason. Their religious regimenting behind mendacious magicians like James Randi left me astonished, and I began a journey of inquiry, resulting in a letter above which explains the process by which a person becomes a pseudoskeptic attacking religions and ESP. A fascinating read, and I am buoyed by the knowledge these grieving angry people can grow back to a normal life, given enough time to recover, or maybe they can be repaired quicker. This is one good example here of the walking wounded we call pseudoskeptics. Grateful I am for this feedback. Thanks to Emilio. Emilio then added some further follow-up commentary, equally instructive to online skeptics and mystified onlookers. Emilio, most instructive are your comments. I think it's great that Australia doesn't have Hellfire preachers. I know that isn't entirely true. Look a bit harder, and you'll find one. You can't get rid of them entirely. They are like roaches. I don't harbor bad feelings toward the people who traumatized me about damnation as a child, because they honestly believed that what they were saying was true, most of them. It wasn't my parents I am talking about, but the faculty at a Christian school that I attended. My parents put me there because they had better academic standards and the public schools, but the side effects were an insane cosmological view. I suffered greatly under this idiocy, but I made a recovery eventually. There was a time in my early 20s when I wouldn't read any book with the word God in it unless it was a derogatory statement. I realize it was insane, but it was a defense mechanism. If you or I were to hear this sort of threat about how our souls would suffer, and how God was angry and vengeful, we could just dismiss it. We could laugh it off. Children, however, don't have that luxury or strength of mind. They take these sort of threats from a source of authority very seriously. It is very real to them. I remember reading in a book about military torture that the torturer's best weapon isn't the torture, but the threat of torture. It's the anticipation that gets you. You are never free from hell, do you know? You have to love God in order to receive salvation. But inside you hate God for putting you in this situation. You have to swallow all that resentment and put on a poker face, or else, you see. But God knows everything. He knows you secretly hate him. Your salvation doesn't mean anything, because it wasn't honest. You were only trying to save your ass. Years of anticipation can drive you crazy. Then one day you realize it was all bullshit, and you stop believing in God and hell, and the whole thing. It's like your brain finally short-circuits. You become nasty and mean, but you're free at least. You wasted all that time worrying, dreading. You had to be extra careful, because what if you died? What if you had the cancer, or what if you got in a wreck? What if you fell in the playground, and landed on your head? What if you got cut and bled to death? There's a million things that could go wrong, and you end up dead. If that were to happen, you would be there, in that dark place, burning, being eaten by maggots, screaming, and alone, falling forever. Do you know what forever is? There's no end to forever. Time has no meaning in eternity. That's how long the torture lasts. Your dead flesh will rot, and be eaten, and burn in fire. But it grows back. Your corpse has to grow back, or else there won't be enough left to continue the torment. Laughing out loud. Okay, enough of that trip, man. You get the point. I watched my grandmother die of cancer. She almost had a nervous breakdown about this salvation shit. She was one of those old women that believed in Jesus, fundamentalist Jesus, not the real Jesus, until the day she died. I was still young enough that I believed it too. I knew what was happening in her mind about the salvation catch-22. I don't know if you are getting how dark this is, but it was a dark time. It was a dark, worrying hell, and it was all imaginary. It was just a bunch of bullshit, and I believed it, and then comes the time you regret all the fun you didn't have, because fun is sin, and that's another huge subject, and you feel like a fool. This is what lies at the heart of fundamentalist belief. This is what causes so many people to turn against God, and wish sincerely that there is no afterlife, and that we are just animals. They don't even realize why they feel this way. I bet they just know it is a matter of life and death. Belief in the supernatural leads to belief in God. Belief in God leads to eternal torture. In one of your videos you note how pseudo-skeptics don't understand analogy and metaphor. You say that religious people can understand metaphor in scripture, but that isn't true of fundamentalists. The central point of their belief is a literal translation of the Word of God, no matter how obvious the analogy is. So moving from this sort of theistic literalism into atheistic literalism isn't a big shift. All you have to do is start making fun of and denouncing the stuff you previously held as sacred. Now you're an atheist pseudo-skeptic in one simple step, laughing out loud. Observers have long noted that religious fundamentalists and skeptics display identical mirror image personality profiles. Anyway, I'm not trying to lecture you about all this mess, but I lived it, and I felt like talking about it. Thanks for reading. All the best. Emilio, sent to Kimbo99 on YouTube. It seems here that fundamentalism is effectively a social contagion, very adversely affecting the most impressionable vulnerable children, transmitted from fundamentalist adults, traumatized in their own childhoods. Something like abused children, growing up walking wounded, only to abuse their own children. It can go on for generations. How to fix this social disaster? You can start the healing, dear skeptic, of yourself and others. Seems to be millions of people, like yourself, in need of this instruction. What to do? Instead of bad-mouthing Christians 5 days a week, favorite this confessional instructive video, so you can flick it to suffering fundamentalists and skeptics alike. Compare average reactions. Ask them to pass a comment below the video, and we collect the data, the opinions, the first reactions, the considered reactions, of both sides of the U.S. Civil War Mark II, that rages on YouTube, between the two groups of the walking wounded, the fundamentalist atheists, and the fundy Christians. Casualties all. Can I suggest you don't condemn anything they say? Listen to their entries, and think before you type an answer. Think about how that person got to that position, to make such an entry. Emilio has shown a light on it. The mere act of reading this story can be therapeutic, for some. There may be other side effects, like substance abuse. We need to know. More videos coming on this social matter, so significant, concerning brain development, the place for literalism, and how we don't all develop intellectually at the same speed, and that many of us are unaware of the many possible disparities.